I didn't know I was hurting myself." Those were the trembling words of a 74-year-old gentleman who once sat in my clinic. His hands shook not from Parkinson's, not from neuropathy, but from a realization far more unsettling. For decades, he had done what millions of men do in silence, never knowing he might have been causing slow, invisible damage to his body, his mind, and his sense of self. I'm Dr. James Rowen, a urologist with over 30 years of experience helping men navigate the tender intersections of aging, intimacy, and identity. And I can tell you this, what you don't know can hurt you, especially when it comes to something as private, as personal, and as quietly powerful as masturbation. If you're over 60, you've likely been told it's harmless. Or maybe you were never told anything at all. Because let's face it, men from our generation didn't grow up with guidance. We grew up with silence, shame, performance pressure, and a quiet belief that when things started to change down there, we had to just man up and accept the decline. But what if I told you that decline wasn't inevitable? That with the right knowledge and a shift in how you relate to your body, you could preserve your vitality, protect your prostate, and even rediscover a kind of pleasure that goes beyond performance? Today, I want to share with you 5 powerful masturbation truths that older men wish they had known sooner. These aren't theories. They're lessons earned from real conversations, medical evidence, and lives quietly reshaped in the second half of life. If this topic speaks to you, if you're ready to reclaim your sense of confidence, clarity, and connection, I invite you to keep reading. And if you want more guidance like this, subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications. Because I believe deeply, your story isn't finished. Your body still matters, and your pleasure still belongs to you. Body secret 1. Your erection is no longer the whole story, and that's okay. Doctor, I can't do what I used to. Does that mean I'm no longer a man? These were the words spoken by Richard, a 72-year-old former firefighter who'd spent his entire life saving others, yet now sat before me, unable to save his own sense of self-worth. Let me tell you something that most medical journals won't say, but I've seen with my own eyes over and over again in my decades of practice. What breaks a man after 60 is rarely just the body. It's what he believes that change means. We grew up in a culture that equated masculinity with firmness, speed, and control. You were expected to perform, not feel, to impress, not explore. So when your body begins to shift, when erections aren't as strong or spontaneous, the first instinct isn't curiosity or compassion. It's fear, shame, silence. But here's the truth I want to tattoo into your mind and heart. Your sexuality doesn't end when erections change, it evolves. And evolution is not decline. It's growth in a different direction. As you age, blood vessels narrow, hormones decrease, nerves become less responsive. That's not failure, that's biology. And yet, your capacity for pleasure, connection, and intimacy doesn't disappear. In fact, for many men, deepens. But only if they allow it. You see, an erection is only one chapter of the story. But your capacity to feel joy, closeness, release, those chapters are still being written. I've seen couples in their 70s and 80s who've had the most tender, emotionally fulfilling intimacy of their lives, not in spite of change, but because of it. The shift is this: stop chasing the mechanical perfection of youth, and start embracing the emotional richness of presence. Stop measuring yourself by the rigidity of your response, and start measuring by the quality of your connection with your partner, or even just with yourself. You are not broken. You are becoming. You are not less of a man. You are a man whose story has more depth now. So let go of the scorecard, the stopwatch, the pressure, and instead, ask, what does my body want to teach me now that it couldn't teach me before? Secret 2. Masturbation is emotional and neurological, not just physical. Let's talk about something we were never taught to connect: emotion and self-touch. When Howard, a retired Navy veteran, came to my office, he didn't mention his body. First, he said, "I feel empty, doctor. I touch myself almost every night, but I don't feel anything." What we uncovered during our talk wasn't a sexual crisis. It was an emotional one. You see, many older men, especially those who live alone, have lost a partner, or feel cut off from daily connection use masturbation as their only outlet for comfort. Not for lust, not for fantasy, but for something deeper, soothing, grounding, relief. It becomes the only time they allow themselves to soften. What Howard didn't realize, and what most men don't, is that every time you climax, your brain releases dopamine pleasure, serotonin calm, oxytocin connection. That's not just a chemical cocktail. That's your body's way of surviving emotional drought. But there's a catch. If you touch yourself without awareness, without presence, over and over again, you start to go through the motions, but the meaning drains away. The act stays. The connection vanishes. And that's what leaves you feeling emptier afterward than before. That's what I helped Howard understand. Instead of escaping loneliness, he was reinforcing it, numbing rather than nourishing. So we started small, slowing down, breathing deeper, bringing intention to the moment, not rushing to climax, but savoring sensation. No performance, no shame, just reconnecting with his own body like it was a sacred space again. And you know what happened? His sense of peace returned. He began sleeping better. He cried during one session, not from sadness, but from finally feeling held by his own hands. Masturbation can be more than release. It can be ritual, reflection, restoration, but only if you show up not just physically, but emotionally, too. Secret 3. Use it or lose it isn't just a saying, it's scientific reality. There's a myth that time alone takes your sexual strength, that aging itself is the thief, but in truth, it's neglect that does the real damage. I remember Roy, widowed for 12 years, kind eyes, gentle voice. He came into my clinic embarrassed not just by his erectile issues, but by his guilt. I let it go, he said. I just thought it didn't matter anymore. And I told him the truth no one had ever shared. It mattered more than he knew. Your penis is not a light switch. It's a vascular and neurological organ. Like your muscles or lungs, it needs regular use to stay healthy. What happens when it's ignored? Blood flow becomes sluggish, nerve endings grow less sensitive, elasticity fades, and the tissues begin to atrophy. Yes, shrink. Think of it like a violin left in the attic. Dust gathers, strings loosen, the sound dulls, but that doesn't mean it can't play again. It just needs care, practice, patience. So Roy began again, not with pressure or goals, but with gentle stimulation. A few minutes a day, no porn, just awareness and respect. Within 2 months, he felt warmth again, tingling, confidence, and perhaps most important of all, hope. Sexual health in older men isn't just about desire. It's about maintenance, about reminding your body it still belongs to you, that touch is still welcomed, that you haven't abandoned the part of yourself that still wants to feel alive. Don't wait for a diagnosis. Don't wait until your tissues go quiet forever. Keep the door open. Knock gently. Your body will remember how to answer. Secret 4. Porn is quietly rewiring your brain and dulling real intimacy. Let me speak plainly. Pornography is not evil, but over time, it can become a thief, one that steals sensation while pretending to give you pleasure. Ernest, a 68-year-old widower, was deeply confused. I still have the urge, he told me, but real touch doesn't do anything for me anymore. What he didn't realize was that his nightly habit, 30 years of reliance on porn, had trained his brain to expect fireworks and nothing less. Here's what happens neurologically. Porn floods your brain with dopamine at extreme levels. It delivers instant gratification, fast, novel, visual. The brain, like any organ, adapts. It says, this is the new standard. But real touch, real breath, a warm body next to yours, that's quiet, subtle, gentle, and so it feels empty, flat, not because you've aged, but because you've rewired your pleasure circuit to require artificial overload. Ernest described it perfectly. It's like watching sunlight through a screen instead of stepping into it. We worked together to taper his exposure, to reintroduce real-time awareness, his own breath, his hand, his body. It took time, but slowly, warmth returned, imagination sparked. He could feel again, This secret is not about guilt. It's about freedom. Freedom from the algorithm. Freedom from numbness. Freedom to reconnect with real sensation, your own or someone else's. If porn has become your primary partner, I urge you, give your senses a chance to breathe again. Secret 5. Masturbation isn't a dirty habit, it's sacred self-care. Let's return to Walter. 75. Kind, gentle, alone. He asked me softly, is it still okay to touch myself? Not because he didn't feel the urge, but because he thought he wasn't allowed to, as if age had revoked his permission to feel human. That question haunts me, because so many men after grief, illness, or simply decades of silence carry the belief that desire is undignified, that aging means becoming invisible, stoic, sexless. But I say this to every man reading, your touch is not inappropriate. It's life-affirming. Masturbation after 60 supports your prostate, keeps your pelvic floor active, boosts sleep, balances hormones, but it also tells your soul, I still matter, I still want, I am still here. When Walter began touching himself again gently, curiously his body responded, but more importantly, his spirit lifted. He smiled more, slept more deeply, and one day he said, I thought that part of me was dead, but it was only waiting for me to return. Touching yourself after 60 isn't about fantasy or youth. It's about identity, wholeness, healing. So stop apologizing, stop hiding, let your body remember what it means to feel, without fear. Conclusion: if you've made it this far, take a moment, breathe, because what you've just read is not just a set of health tips, it's a quiet revolution, a revolution against shame, against silence, against the lie that aging must be a slow erasure of your vitality, your intimacy, your right to feel. For decades, you've been told to push through pain, to suppress softness, to stay silent about what happens when the body begins to change. But now finally, you've been given a new narrative, one that doesn't shame your evolution, but honors it. Let's recall what we've uncovered together. That erection is not the full measure of your manhood. That presence, connection, and tenderness are far more enduring than performance ever was. That masturbation is not a mechanical reflex, but an emotional language, a way your nervous system processes grief, loneliness, even hope. That use it or lose it is not a threat, it's a biological truth, and a loving invitation to keep your body responsive and alive through gentle, regular attention. That porn, when overused, becomes a silent saboteur, dulling your capacity for real sensation, real intimacy, but that it's never too late to reclaim your imagination and return to real pleasure. And finally, that masturbation is not a dirty habit, it is sacred self-care. Especially after 60, especially when grief has visited, especially when you thought no one saw you anymore. These aren't just secrets, they're keys that open locked doors you thought had rusted shut long ago. And now, the most important truth of all, desire doesn't retire, it doesn't vanish with the calendar, it softens, it deepens, but it never disappears unless you stop listening. I've met thousands of men, some broken by loss, others weary from years of pretending, but the moment they were told, you are still whole, you could see something shift in their eyes, a flicker, a light, a breath. So wherever you are right now, whether you're single or partnered, curious or afraid, just beginning again, or trying to recover what was lost, I want you to know, you are not invisible, you are not expired, you are not alone. There is still so much to touch, so much to feel, so much life left to live, not in the way of your youth, but in the deeper rhythm of your now. And if this message has stirred something in you, I invite you gently but firmly to take action. Subscribe to this channel for more honest, age-specific, life-affirming conversations. Leave a comment below. Just a simple "I'm here" is enough to break the silence. Share this with a friend, a brother, a father, someone who may need to hear that he is not too late to return to himself. We are building a space here, not just of advice, but of compassion, not just science, but truth. A place where men can age not with fear, but with dignity, not with numbness, but with aliveness. And I promise you this, from one man to another, You are still worthy. You are still wanted. You are still wonderfully, irrevocably alive. Let's walk this path together, yours in health and hope. Dr. James Rowen.